So we move further. We are trying to understand the concept that we have to understand is sequence of tenses. As I said, it is the different test items, the different aspects of grammar, or rather one aspect of grammar, that is tense, would be assessed or would be tested in your case by way of sequence of tenses. And in order to understand sequence of tenses, I need to understand finite verb, because finite verb will help me understand the three different types of sentences, because sequence of tenses applies only in the case of complex sentence. It doesn't, the rules in sequence of tenses do not hold true in case of simple and compound sentences, only in complex sentences. Now, I have understood what a finite verb is. I have also an idea what a non-finite verb is. A non-finite verb will resemble a verb, but it will not serve its purpose of identifying the tense. Therefore, now it becomes easier. If I add ing against a verb, it will stop serving its purpose. If I put a to before it, again it will stop serving its purpose. So these are non-finite verbs. Now, it is important here at this juncture to recall the word phrase. Now, any phrase, a phrase does not carry a finite verb. It may not carry a non-finite verb. For example, let's understand it by way of an example. Feeling hungry, the boy went to steal food. For example, let us find out finite and non-finite verbs here. Okay, let's first go back and find out a phrase. Phrase, as I said, does not carry a finite verb. So, feeling hungry is a phrase in this particular sentence. This particular phrase has a non-finite verb, feeling. Feeling does not tell you the tense here. The word went tells you the tense. How? Because I know that the action described in the sentence took place in the past, and the word which tells me that this action took place in the past is went. So, went is the only finite verb here. Steal is a verb, but here it is a non-finite verb because you have to before it. Because of the word to before it, steal is a non-finite verb. So, this is a non-finite verb here. And this is also a non-finite verb here. No non-finite verb. Yes, went is a finite verb here. So I have underlined the finite verb went in this particular sentence and the two non-finite verbs, one formed by adding ing against it and the other one formed by putting a to before it. Still is a verb, but here it isn't. Fine. So a verb may be a finite verb or a non-finite. A word may be a verb or a non-finite verb in a sentence. We are making an effort to understand the different types of sentences, simple, compound and complex. And I've told you that a phrase does not contain a finite verb. It may not carry a non-finite verb, but a clause has to have a finite verb. It may not carry a non-finite verb, but it is absolutely imperative for a clause. If it is a clause, it has to have a finite verb. So here, the boy went to steal food is a clause. this group of words. Feeling hungry is a phrase. Fine. Now, if once I've learned to identify the finite verb, I'll be able to identify the clauses. Because simple understanding is number of finite verbs, number of finite verbs is directly proportional to the number of clauses. So as many number of finite verbs, that many number of clauses. So one finite verb, one clause. Two finite verb, that many number of clauses. So let's come back to the definition of simple, compound and complex sentence. Simple sentence will have one finite verb. It's a simple sentence. Compound and complex will have more than one finite verb. Complex will also have more than one finite verb. So, come back to this sentence. Let's identify this sentence. Feeling hungry, the boy went to steal food. The number of finite verb 1. So therefore it's a simple sentence. Feeling hungry, the boy went to steal food is a simple sentence. Fine. There is only one finite verb, which is went. Now, come back to a compound and a complex sentence. Now, strictly according to the definition, any sentence which has more than one finite verb is called a compound sentence or a complex sentence. Now, if a sentence has more than one finite verb, remember we are dealing with sequence of tenses. So, if a sentence has more than one finite verb, grammar says that one verb, finite that is, which will be main, how we'll understand that, will determine the tense of the finite verb of the other verb. And this particular situation, this dependence of the tense of one finite verb on the other is applicable only in the case of complex sentences. Only in the case of complex sentences. Only in the case of complex sentences. We are dealing with sequence of tenses. Now see, compound sentence has also more than one finite, but sequence of tenses applies, the rules in sequence of tenses, as I've already told you, applies in the case of only complex sentences, which, like a compound sentence, has more than one finite verb. We will first understand the difference between a compound sentence and a complex sentence. The complex sentence is a sentence which has more than one finite verb, that means more than one clauses, but in case of a complex sentence, in case of a compound sentence that is, the two clauses are independent of each other. That means the meaning of one clause is not dependent for its meaning on the other. In case of a complex sentence, the meaning of one clause is dependent for its meaning, is dependent on the other clause. So a complex sentence has a clause which conveys full meaning and a clause which conveys incomplete meaning. And you cannot write the clause which has incomplete meaning in isolation. It won't convey complete meaning. It will make some sense, but it will not make complete sense. For it to make complete sense, it has to be conjoined to the main clause.